Good day, everyone. My name is Dr. Grace Macaulay. Today we'll be presenting about COVID-19 vaccine, and I'll be presenting with my colleague Laura Egobiami. I trained as a hematology oncologist at King's College Hospital in London. I joined the pharmaceutical industry in 2006 with a short break in the NHS. I worked in various pharmaceutical companies as patient safety physician. I obtained my diploma in pharmaceutical medicine and my CCT from GMC in 2018. Uh, I'm currently working as a senior medical director at Cepheid, a molecular diagnostic company. Joining me today will be Laura, a lead assay scientist. I'll let Laura introduce herself.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening from. Yes, my name is Laura Governor, and I'm currently working as a lead assay scientist for a biotech company called Mesdac Therapeutics. I have a background in developing cell-based assays for biologics, so I'm very much involved with the early drug discovery element of basically drug molecules, and in particularly in areas of respiratory as well as cardiovascular diseases and as well as oncology. I'm also the founder of the Black Medical Scientific Network. This network is a network for both scientists as well as medics in collaborating together and also helping to educate the Black and Asian ethnic minorities on current scientific affairs. Thank you.
So today we'll be talking about the science behind COVID, the herd immunity, the regulatory approval. We'll also be comparing different vaccine as of last week, and we will try to answer some of the myths and the facts about COVID-19.
Okay, so why are we interested in talking about vaccination among the BAME community? Well, it has been, as we've from last year when COVID came about in 2020, that the majority of those affected in terms of mortality, there was a high proportion of BAMEs which were affected. And it's also been shown up to about 70% are least likely to take the vaccine. And why is this? It's because there's been a lot of misconception on social media. There is a lot of misinformation about what is contained in the vaccine, and it's been rumored that there are elements of alcohol and pork. And just to really want to stress that here, that the main element of the vaccine is actually water. So over 90% of the vaccine is really water. The rest of the molecules in the vaccine is what we'll find mostly in the human body. So there are some salts there, and there's also preservatives. So those preservatives are there because to prevent contamination of the vaccine when it's been transported. So there's no elements of alcohol or pork within the vaccine. And just to understand, just again, because of our community, there's a lot of cultural and language barriers which are causing a lot of misconceptions. So hopefully today we're going to try and outline in some of these things and hopefully have a better and clear understanding. Okay, so before we go into that, it's just really just to take our minds back a bit. So what is the coronavirus? And in order to understand that, we need to understand what the structure of the virus is. So there are really main key elements of the virus itself. So we have the inner core, which is where the genetic material is contained within the virus. So this is the RNA protein. So you can see this here. These are spiral sparks within the viral envelope. And then there's an outer crown, which is known as the spike protein. So these are kind of, you can see here, this is a protruding, almost like a crown, really. And this allows the virus to actually enter the cell. And then there is around sort of a lipid core area, you can see in blue here. So this is the lipid membrane. And the reason why soap is so effective is that this lipids, mostly fatty acids as we know them, they can easily basically stop viral entry. So by washing of hands of soap, you can pretty much kill every of those virus particles. And also just to point out here that the spike protein are the main targets for most of the vaccines that's been approved in the UK. So we know that most people who get COVID are, they'll get a very sort of mild to moderate form of the illness. However, in about 15% of cases, what this goes on to is causes severe infection. So this is when you get COVID disease. So COVID disease is where, that's when it's very life-threatening, where a hospitalization is required. And what happens here, so this is just shown in this picture here. So what you can see is that the main kind of target of the virus is the alveolar wall. So this is a lining within your lungs. So the main compartment going, so within that alveolar, you have membrane sacs. And what happens with COVID infections that you get buildup of fluid within this alveolar sacs, and this therefore prevents gas exchange. And basically what happens here is that the patient will eventually become unable to breathe. So it's at this point that they will require a ventilator, so an oxygen to be able to enable them to breathe. And if this just doesn't happen in time, unfortunately, we've seen that patients will, it can cause death. So when this happens, is that it's really this causing pneumonia. So this is kind of causing this fluid which builds up, which will decrease oxygen supply as well as decrease blood flow to other areas of your organs. So when this is happening, it's like this is completely shut down all of your vital organ blood supply. So this is why it's so, so debilitating. And what's been shown, as we've seen as well, that in the UK, we have got over 120,000 people who have died from COVID. So this is a disease that we've never seen before. And, it is a pandemic because it's something that's affecting the whole world.
So as we can see from this, it's affecting the whole world. And so because of that, everybody has come together to make sure we find a solution. So far, the solution has been to find the vaccine. So there's been a race for the vaccine, as can be seen here. 135 labs or companies or universities or institutions have come together and they're working on the vaccine. In US alone, there are about 55 companies. In UK, we have about 9, and it's scattered all over. But it's, as you can see, there's not even one coming from Africa. As of 2020, 26th of January 2021, when this was taken, there were 119 clinical trials taking place preclinically, meaning that before it goes into the patient, and 3 of those were actually in the later phases called the phase 3, and of course 2 were also in even these 2 phase 3. They attempt to see if existing tuberculosis and measles vaccine can even help. There are other 2 like that can help with COVID. Laura, do you want to talk to this vaccine production?
Yeah, okay, yeah, we can talk. So this is just a schematic, just explaining the different type of vaccines that we have. So in the first column here, so this is the type of vaccine of either made either DNA or RNA. So this is the genetic material, which just basically just is what a lot of the COVID vaccines have been made of. So it's not actually the virus itself, but it's just a genetic material. So this is just either it's a double-stranded, which is DNA, or single-stranded RNA nucleotide. And basically here is just a genetic information which teaches the cell to make that either the spike protein, so transferring that material information into your body. Then you have a different form of vaccine known as the live attenuated vaccine. So this is actually a weakened form of the virus itself. So this is taking a virus. So an example of this will be the measles vaccine and the rubella and chickenpox vaccine. And then you have an activated viral vaccine. So this is actually using the whole virus. However, it has been sort of making it less virulent, so making it is not able to cause any viral harm. So the way it's been done, that is either using heat or chemicals, so it can inactivating the virus itself. So an example of this is well known as the polio vaccine. So this is an inactivated vaccine. And then there is also vaccines which uses the subunit of the virus. So this is just using the surface of the immune, so just using kind of small surfaces, viral particles, and targeting a specific target of the immune system. And then this is an example of the virus, of a vaccine, is the viral vector. So this is basically just a carrier in order to this is what the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. So this is using a viral vector, which basically means that it's a carrier which enables the vaccine to basically enter into the cell. So, for example, if you have a car, so the car will be the vector, and then you have the shopping inside your car. So that is the virus. So it's just given the ability to be a transport for actually taking that virus into the cell. So how does the vaccines actually induce immunity? Oh, sorry, if we go back from the first, yes, on the first slide. Okay, this one here. So basically, this is just taking, for example, our COVID vaccine. So this is using RNA. So RNA is just ribonucleic acid. So this is a single-stranded nucleotide. And what happens is that basically we've been able to sequence that in the lab, and we have a template. So all we're doing with that RNA is basically teaching the cells to make the proteins which your immune system will recognize. And the way that it's been delivered, it's using a very fancy technique called precision and nanoparticles. So basically, it's just because the RNA is very small particles, it's using a very fancy technology, and it's just a fluid technology which enables the RNA to be able to fit inside the fluidics, and it's just inserted through an injection into your body. And what happens then is that protein has been able to express, and then it's able to target various different and cause an immune response. And we can see this here in this picture. So basically what happens is that the viral information is extracted from that sequence of the DNA, and basically it's on the surface of the cells here. It will enter the cell, and that protein needs to be able to be translated. So the RNA, which is that genetic information, needs to be translated within your system, the cell system. So this is the process of translation. And after that translation, it has to be transcribed. So that just basically means that it has to be to make a protein, which is the viral spike protein, which allows your immune system to be able to see the virus itself. So it's not actually, like I said, it's not the virus that you're putting into this vaccine. It's just the genetic information. So that genetic information is then transcribed, and then it's on the surface of a peptide. And then basically what happens then is that your immune system is able to see it. So there's two different cell types which are involved here. So the one kind of key main cell types is the CD8 T cells. These are just T cells, which basically what happens is that it sees that virus, and it then basically it sees it and just makes the right viral, it will make groundzyme. So these are just another key molecule that it sees, and just basically it just attacks that cell. Say I'm a virus, and it sees it. Another way it does that is through CD4 T helper cells, and these are just another immune cells, and this is what causes your kind of long-lasting immunity. So this is when you've heard about, oh, I need to produce the right antibodies. So what this immune cells would do is that it would direct your B cells to produce the antibodies, which will basically help you. That it gives you long-lasting immunity, because what happens is that when it encounters that virus again, it knows it has the information to say, I've seen this before, I will produce the right antibodies to be able to give me that long-lasting immunity. So these are just the main ways that your immune system works to be able to combat that virus. So having the vaccination really all it's really doing is just enhancing this whole immune response. So why is vaccination important? So this is really the key goal of vaccination. If you don't remember anything else, but do remember this, and why it's important for everyone to be vaccinated. So we have two scenarios here. So if we take scenario one, so this is just taking a population of individuals who are healthy. So in our community, we've not been immunized. So these are represented here in green, and we're still healthy. But what happens is that if basically infection was, like for example, like COVID was to come into the community, the effect is because we're not immunized, a lot of people will get sick, and in this case, a lot of people are dying. And you can see that they're represented in the red here, and that disease is able to spread through the community. However, if we have scenario 2 here, where we have a population of individuals who are healthy, but in this case, they're immunized. So this, you can see here, these are represented in yellow. So this scenario here, what happens is because they're immunized, we're able to contain that disease and stop it from spreading through the population. So you can see the effect here. So because of that immunization, the disease is controlled. So basically what the effect is that less people will become sick. So by being vaccinated, you're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting those who are around you, and you're also protecting those who are very most vulnerable. So those who have a really weak immune system. For example, a lot of people at the moment, we have people who have cancer, diabetes. So those, their immune system is not going to be as strong as someone who doesn't have that. So just think about other people during this time. It's not only about you, it is about others as well.
And I can testify to that. Today, the government actually told us that because many more people are being vaccinated now, we're seeing less people having the serious effect of COVID, being admitted. So there's less admission. And that shows that the vaccine is actually taking effect and the herd immunity is being generated. So the more people that can be vaccinated, the more we can get out of the lockdown, or the faster we can get out of the lockdown. Now, this next slide is about how drugs or vaccine are regulated. Before any drug is given to humans, it has to go through these processes, and there's no company that can bypass this. So nobody is paid to approve the drug. It has to go through the approved processes. And so it's something called the common technical document is submitted. This document we have the module 1, which is just we tell them about the company and why they are producing it. But the most important thing I want you to home on are the modules 2, 3, 4, and 5. Without this, the quality of the data being produced, the safety report, the fact that the clinical study report showing that the drug or the vaccine works, there will not be an approval for this drug. And so there's a detailed regulation and the legal basis for this. Anybody that submit a drug in any country has to come up with this, and that's why it's called common technical document. Whether you are in Japan, Europe, US, everybody uses the same thing. The only thing that differs is module 1. And as of today, the human medicine highlights for EMA says they've given 97 positive opinion, meaning that they've given approval for those drugs. Where you can see that not all drugs are approved. Some have been withdrawn. 16 application has been withdrawn. That means they've probably told them to go and get more information, and some have been rejected and just have negative opinion. So it's not all drugs that are submitted that are even approved. And so what do we mean by Europe Medicine Agency? Europe Medicine Agency is the body that approves drugs, that looks through all those common technical documents that were in London up to 2019. EMA was founded in 1995, but due to Brexit, as we all know it, they've now moved to Amsterdam. They have about 890, almost 900 employees. and they have experts all over Europe. So they have about 4,000 scientific experts. These experts are the ones that review the package when it's submitted, and they are responsible for coordinating and supporting the scientific evaluation for safety monitoring of human and veterinary medicines. They allow member states to rely on each other's expertise, ensuring the safety and the efficacy of this drug. Our local regulatory body in England is called the Medicine and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, the MHRA. MHRA now has to play a bigger role because we're not part of EMA. But having said that, they will still be able to rely on the scientific experts from other European countries. So what does EMA, how do they work? They exchange knowledge and best practices. They are impartial, so there's public declaration of interest. If you go to their website, you'll be able to check for all this. They have timely patient access. They have scientific guidelines and advice. The European expert, for example, is made up of a scientific committee member. They have a rapporteur from one country and the co-rapporteur from another, so there's impartiality. They have expert witnesses. They have working party members. So it's made up of several people coming together to make sure that this review of the document is done impartially and with enough scientific guidance. So with that in mind, we can say, so why was the approval of the vaccine so fast? It's because because we're in a pandemic and they needed to have the results. I can bet you that what has happened is everyone has just downplay every other thing and they focus on approving the vaccine. So all the common technical documents are being reviewed by experts on a daily basis, and they prioritize the vaccine more than other drugs. And that's why the approval was so fast. Another thing that approval was so fast was because of the funding. We know from information out there that the government have come together to donate money to make sure that the vaccine are made in record time. So how does the vaccine, how do they compare? We have, as of today, I think there's another one that has joined, but as of today, we are familiar with the Pfizer or the Pfizer and the BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which, as we said before, has the RNA, the virus genetic code. You take 2 injections 21 days apart. The most important thing about the Pfizer vaccine is the storage, which is, it has to be stored in -75, but they are now currently doing studies where they are trying to make sure that it can be stored in the normal fridge. That study is going on. And we just put it here to compare it with the Moderna vaccine, which the storage is -20 up to 6 months, also 2 injections. And you can see they're both effective over 90%. I need to say something here that normally the flu vaccine, as you see here, most of the vaccine, as long as we have effectiveness of over 60%, is acceptable to the regulatory authorities. So having 90 is a bonus. The MMR vaccine that we all give to children against measles, rubella, and mumps have 97%, of course, because of the danger of these viruses as well. They are kept in the fridge and the storage of 2 to 8. As of today, we have other vaccine. We have the one from Russia, the Gamaleya vaccine, which also uses a viral vector like the Oxford AstraZeneca. The viral vector, as we've been told, is just to carry as a vector, as a carrier to the site of where it works. That can be kept in the fridge, also has 92% effectiveness. We have the Johnson & Johnson, which has just been approved a few days ago in US. And that's a 1-dose vaccine. Everybody is looking at, as you can see, it says here effectiveness is 66%. But if they break it down, I think it has a higher effectiveness in preventing infection in those who are liable to go to the hospital. It actually increases to 90%. They're still working on it, and the data is not yet available against the South African variant. We haven't talked about the variant today, but there are many variants that are coming along. I think there are about over 100 now, but as of last week when I was reading about it. Sister Laura, is there anything else you'd like to say about the different vaccine before I move on?
I think you've covered all. I think it just maybe just one or two things I'll probably say about the variants. And the reason why we have the variants is because the virus is an RNA molecule, and basically what happens with RNA, because it's single-stranded, it is more amenable to basically when it's copying itself, that those copies makes mistakes, and that's how we get the variants. So it's actually trying to copy that genetic information, and each time it copies it, an error is made. So that's how those variants come about. And I believe at the moment in the UK we have the South African variant, the Brazil, and the Kent. But like you said, more and more are likely to come, and hopefully more and more vaccines are being produced as well, and more drugs as well. So we have multiple angles in tackling the variants as well as COVID.
I think another thing to say is whichever vaccine you are offered, please take it, because the most important is making the antibodies and getting the protection.
That's right.
So this is about the safety and the efficacy. This is a research carried out by Pfizer before launching the vaccine, and this is what Laura described before, the lipid nanoparticle carrying the mRNA and forming the injection going into the, so we won't go into this again. You can see the whole cell being repeated. The spike protein is the one that anchors it to the surface of the cell. And before the vaccine was produced, as of November 14, 43,000, almost 43,500 people actually took part in the trial. And it was divided equally. So almost 22,000 people had the vaccine, and 22,000 approximately had what is called the placebo. So they probably were given normal saline. And they found out, if you look at the graph on the right, they found out that from 7 days, the efficacy was so good that you get protected from 7 days. And if you look at the blue one, are the people that had the placebo, and the dark blue are the people that got admitted because of the disease. So if you can see, the way we read graph is the more space you have, the better the other one. And so you can see the one in red is the people that were given the vaccine. They were protected for days. I mean, this is still going on over 100 days, and they're still protected. And of course, there was no death reported. There was allergy reported to the order of 0.002%. In pharmaceutical medicine, if you have anything less than 0.001% is considered as very rare. So we're now wrapping up, and we put here some of the myths and the facts about the COVID-19. As we've said before, we're hoping that this slide will have put your mind at rest. We hope we will have addressed some of the concerns about what the vaccine is made of, what COVID itself is. So the COVID-19 is safe. Yes, it's been developed so quickly, but that's because everybody came together to put, should I say, to put their money where their mouth is, so that we can have a solution as quickly as possible, so that the world can move on. It will not alter any DNA, which is our genetic material, because as you've seen from the pictures, it doesn't go into the cell, and there's no pork or gelatin, as we've discussed. It doesn't include a tracking device because it's liquid. Of course, we have to have the lot, what we call the lot, or the batches of the vaccine developed, because they need to track, and that's for logistic purposes. You need to, and if anything happens, so that they'll be able to trace it to that batch. Just like food, if you buy something just like what you do, you scan your food when you go to the supermarket. So it's the same scanning procedure. If there's food that is bad, they will tell you to to return into the supermarket because they're saying that batch is bad. It's the same thing here. Severe side effects such as allergy may occur as we very rarely, and that's why they said people with history of severe allergy, and what they meant is people who carry what we call EpiPen should not get vaccine, and that's they know themselves because they will have a wristband, they will have the EpiPen in there. You always look for it in there. There are people who could die if they receive anything, not just vaccine that they are allergic to, including food. Infertility in women, no, there's no study to show that because again, it doesn't cross the placenta and the sequence is too short to affect fertility. Can you get COVID from the vaccine? No, because it's not live vaccine that is given. It said once I received the vaccine, will I test positive? There's no live virus, so the vaccine cannot affect your result. I had mine 2 days ago. I kept on working. Apart from the aches and pain for which I took paracetamol, there was not really nothing. So I'm a living example that the vaccine is safe. If I receive the vaccine, I'm at a greater risk to become sick from another disease. No, you cannot be sick from another disease because unless you already have that disease, and it would just be by chance that you are having the disease while maybe after you had the vaccine, but it cannot be the vaccine because it's made of mRNA, which is supposed to boost your immunity to the virus and not make you sick to another infection. So I'm hoping that in conclusion, we've managed to touch on the safety and the effectiveness of the vaccine. We've talked on how the production of the vaccine is regulated by the authority, the EMA, the FDA, the MHRA. They are the regulatory authority that approves it for human use. And we've discussed about the herd immunity in the population. The more people that can have the immunity to the virus by taking the vaccination, the less the impact of the virus on the population and the serious effect of being admitted to ITU and all that. And of course, that also results in reduction of spread and limits severe infection. So the NHS will not be overwhelmed. And that's why they're saying we should not be selfish. It's not about ourselves alone. It's about the health workers, is about everybody else who are at risk of having it because they have underlying disease. We need to think about others. We need to be each other's keepers. So please take the vaccine to protect yourself and others unless you have medical reasons not to. We'd like to share with you this survey that we did at our church at Redeemed Christian Church in Cambridge, which showed that almost 80% of people actually said before we gave this talk that they would take the vaccine. You could say, well, Cambridge is unique in the sense that it's a university town, and it's encouraging to see 80% of people will take the vaccine. And here I said, do you think you have adequate information about the vaccine? And almost 70% said yes, they do. Will discussion with scientists and medical personnel will it increase your comfort level about the vaccine? Here is more diverse. About 50% strongly agree. So if you actually take the 50% that agrees and the 25 that says agree, so you have almost 75% of people agreeing that discussion with scientists and medical personnel will increase their level about the vaccine. So we are hoping the less than 10% that does not agree with that, by the time we finish the presentation, they will change their mind. And with this, we'd like to say a big thank you to everyone for their time. Please, if you have any question, kindly get back to us. Thank you.